What's up guys, I'm Mike and this is Porty's Chop Shop. This is my 1978 Datsun 620 with a full 240SX swap, S13 front subframe, S14 rear subframe, and an SR20 turbo. If you guys are interested in any of the rest of this build, there's playlists and videos on my channel, so go check them out and consider subscribing while you're there. In this video, I'm going to be going over the intercooler setup that I went with on this truck. I decided to go with an air-to-water intercooler. I made this choice years back before a lot of the OE manufacturers such as BMW and Dodge were releasing these in their vehicles. A couple of the differences with these intercooler setups is packaging. There's a lot more equipment that goes with it, but it allows you to move it around the engine bay in a way that's sometimes easier to suit. In my case, I didn't want a large intercooler out front of the grille or bumper on this truck, so I'm able to fit a small water-to-air heat exchanger in between the grille and the radiator, and then keep the intercooler inside the engine bay. And we'll go over that location and everything later in this video. Other differences with that change in packaging is there is more equipment with the air-to-water intercooler. You have to deal with pumps and heat exchangers, which you wouldn't have to with an air-to-air intercooler. You just have piping and a heat exchanger out front. But usually that piping is larger and a little bit harder to move around, whereas you can just move hoses out to the front for the heat exchanger on a water-to-air intercooler. So hopefully that answers any questions that you guys had about why I went with this setup. Now let's get into the build. Starting with locating that heat exchanger. This is the mounting location I decided on for the intercooler. So I whipped up this quick little bracket just to kind of locate it. So now that it's located, we can kind of get started. My goal is to sort of get this first hot side pipe kind of tacked up and ready to go. And then I think I'm going to need like a 45 on the end of this or something like that, because with the hood closed, this angle is just a little too much right here. So.
Nice.
All right, gotta love when you have a win right off the bat. So here's my old, here's my old intercooler piping that was over here. But this little guy just kind of makes the perfect little dip down right there off of there and kind of comes over right to where it needs to meet up on the turbo outlet. So if I mark this up right, I think I might be able to make this in just like one tack, which would be friggin' amazing. So I'm gonna set to trying to do that and see what I can do. Hopefully you'll have just seen me mark these up. I'm gonna go cut them in Porty's chop shed. I'll be right back. No way. What? So easy. All right, that was only one try, one cut. I maybe possibly could make this leg a little bit longer. I think I might do that. But yeah, that's looking pretty good. Clears the brake master by quite a bit. Valve cover by quite a bit. Loads of room for an intake pipe and box up here, and a super short cold side run, so pretty happy with that. This is probably super uninteresting for some, but this is very exciting for me because this is my first aluminum TIG. Just tacking that in place feels like a huge accomplishment. Pretty stoked about learning a new thing. I've always wanted to TIG welder, as I'm sure anyone who fabricates does, and just jumping into it and trying to learn. This isn't perfect, but I'm glad to be working with it. So anyways, that being said, I'll probably do this again. All right, guys, well, I got pretty lucky. I actually just cut that piece off and then swapped it around. The longer side is now in the turbo outlet, and the shorter side is tack welded to the inlet to the intercooler. I think it looks pretty freaking cool. It's coming up like this. Plenty of room around the master cylinder, like I said. There will be heat shield there, catch can over there, and there's lots of room for the air intake. I have these GK Tech clocking plates. I only did it on the intake side, and I didn't use it up here because it kind of put it where my master cylinder is, which isn't any fault of GK Tech's. I just wanted the clocking plates for the options. So, aside from the power steering pump, which goes about there, I need to find out maybe a 90 or something off that air intake, and then come up here to an air box. Now, let me see real quick if I can show you my thoughts on this side. All right, this is coming out pretty good. I'm pretty excited about this. Let me show you. So I got that 45 cut up, shortened it out, and then cut the 90 right there. And then what's next is got the HKS blow-off valve flange here. Only thing I gotta make sure I leave room for the battery. Or I was also thinking like up here would be kind of cool. Then I don't have anything on the piping, and it definitely clears the battery up there. So that's another option up there. And then for the idle air control, I got this piece right here. So this is a -12 AN bung that goes to a push lock line or something. I don't know. But anyways, it's the right size to go into the IACV, which goes underneath there. I think with the blow-off valve flange over there, maybe I'm leaning towards up there. It looks a lot cooler. And then that idle air control pipe right there coming off, I think that would look pretty sick. All right, change of plans, guys. I'm thinking right there is a better spot for that. I think it gives some sauce to this intercooler piping over here, a little something to look at, and it's not quite so crowded over here by the battery. So I don't know if I covered it in the beginning of this video, but the whole kind of point of the whole water-cooled intercooler thing is not having any obnoxious stuff going on out here. So I want to keep this pretty OE looking. I know it's kind of funny with all the shit I've done to it, but that's how it is. So I think I'll stick with up there, and then maybe I'll cut these out and tack them in and go from there. All right, I got the intercooler piping where I want it. I definitely screwed that one up big time. So I ordered it again for the third time. But with that guy kind of destroyed for now, I have the intercooler where I like it. All the piping works out. IACV will go there when I can learn how to weld properly. Blow-off valve, I went with this one. Thanks to everyone who gave me feedback on both sides. I know keeping the blow-off valve closer to the throttle is kind of a topic of discussion, but with the intercooler piping this short, I don't think it's gonna matter. So, and then I got the intake set up over here. I got like a mushroom filter. I'm gonna post that up in there, and it'll go into that pipe. But anyways, with all that done and said, I need to make the other two mounting tabs for the intercooler. You can see I only have the one right there. But there's a bunch of snapped off screws in my intake. So I gotta take that intake out and open up those holes so I can use them for mounting bolts. So I'm gonna get at it. All right, guys, I tried with the AN fittings, and it just isn't working out for me. I don't have the skill level yet, and I think the materials are a little bit different. But I'm not gonna let that stop me on getting this intake and intercooler system air side done. So here's the like actual intake with the MAF. I kind of hate this, but this MAF setup is from like here to here. It's so long. It probably doesn't look so on this video, but it's hard to fit into this area. I wanted to do a whole air box and filter assembly, but for now this works from going to here over to here. Just have to figure out a way to mount it right there, and I'm halfway there with this ugly aluminum mount. Once that's bolted in place and I can bolt the intercooler up, make the other two mounts for this side, and this air side will be done. Let's get to work. All right, you saw me making that intake mount, this thing. It turned out like absolute dog crap. I think I'm using the wrong aluminum. I think I need to switch to 5000 series or something, or just continue to work on my skills a little bit. So yet another failure for this intake side, but I'm gonna go ahead and just make it out of steel. I can weld steel all day long, no problem, and continue to work on my aluminum skills. So if you guys have any tips for the aluminum skills in welding, drop them below. So I'll do that and then mount up this filter and make the remaining intercooler mounts, and then probably call it. Update time. Got this done out of steel in half the time it took me to attempt it in aluminum. So I have the filter itself mounted. It's pretty rigid, it'll be fine once that last coupler is on there. But I set this up so I could kind of cut my way on my last Vibrant 90 that I have. I need this one to work and I can't screw it up, it's my last one. But once that's on, I can clamp this all together. I also shortened this coupler just a tiny bit so it could clear the fender over here. Misses as good as a mile. So just cut up this last one there, and then moving on to the intercooler mount, like I've said 4 times. So here we go. Got the intercooler mounts done, and it's time to take all this stuff apart and just kind of button it all up for a final time. Or sorry, not for a final time, let's be real. I gotta paint all this stuff. But I want to get one more test fire up on it and maybe put all this piping under boost, see how it performs before I take everything apart and paint it and get the last fittings and stuff. Like I said, this AN fitting, I don't have the skill level to do it yet, and I'm waiting on some piping to get here. So let's get this all apart, probably throw you guys on a time lapse and get all this wiring plugged back in, check all of the connections, put clamps in all of the boost piping, and then steal the battery out of the Frontier and fire it up. Alright, well, if you can't hear me, it's because this motor's running. Boy, it's loud. Well, so I got it running. It seems to be running a lot better with the boost piping all installed and all the vacuum lines plugged in. Obviously, no shit. So I'm gonna let this thing warm up a little bit and then see if I can build some boost pressure. All right, I think it's warmed up now. I'm gonna see if I can actually hit boost. So let's go. that, folks, is why those little beads on the end of these intercooler pipings are so important, because they will hold boost pressure. So I'll work on that. Maybe I'll tighten that back down and see if it'll fire back up, but pretty successful. Definitely ran. That hasn't idled that clean ever since I've owned it, and that's probably due to everything being hooked up. I cleaned all of the like idle control stuff when I was rebuilding this whole situation again, so it's running super clean. I just super stoked. All right, she runs. It's running great. I think I'm gonna go ahead and end this video there. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone who subscribed. My channel has just reached over 1,000 subscribers, so thank you so much again for that. The rest of this intercooler build, the plumbing, the wiring, and the finished product with everything powder coated and a few little surprises will be in part 2. So please do subscribe and stick around and wait for that video. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.